Welcome everybody. My name is Dave Ruijter. I work at McCall. Somebody at McCall said, well, why is your session in Dutch? Because it's Tech Days and there will be a lot of not Dutch speakers. So I said, challenge accepted. I'm a lead data analytics consultant, and my daily work involves a lot of Power BI, but also a lot of the other products in the Cortana Intelligence Suite. And my goal is to make sure the project is successful, and that the goals of the customer are our goals. When you're a consultant at McCall, you can have lots of specialities, but my general day of work involves a lot of different roles, like architecture, training, developer, or even sales. Today I will at least try to explain to you how you can do better data storytelling, even in Power BI, but not, well, lots of the information can be applied to other visualization tools as well. If you have any questions, raise your hand. Maybe I can answer them directly, maybe at the end of the session. So, just a few questions. Who's here to get better in storytelling inside Power BI? Raise your hand, please. All right, so there's lots of you who are already using Power BI. It's a great tool. Been here for around 2 years, and I really like it. But it can be a challenge to make a real story inside Power BI. So let's work on that. Why do you need good visualizations? Because there's a lot of data today, and data on itself is not very good in telling the insights, the story. So we need you guys to do that, to prepare it. Gartner says the data today has lots of volume, but more importantly, lots of velocity. Speed coming in and out is really big, and the variety is also really, really big. So how do you handle that? Not like this. See lots of reports today, wrong use of colors, wrong use of chart types, 3D chart types, overlapping charts. It's really an eyesore, and it's hard to tell what to look at. This one is a little bit better. You can be disagree with what this graph says, but it tells a little bit story. It says here's the start. The color is different from the start. It goes up, so you can see a trend. And there's not a lot of clutter. So what the author of this chart was meant to tell, pretty much in like a few seconds you see his point or her point. So let's go get yourself better in storytelling in 7 steps. First step is map your domain. You have to know your audience, your data, what style to use. If you need to focus on the data going up or the data going down, what your consumers are or your customers. Is the data business to business? Is your report supposed to be business to business or business to consumer? And the gray area is really important. What's the device that your viewers will see your report on? Is it going to be on paper or with Power BI? Lots of viewing happens on laptops and more on mobile. If you look at this data, it says the number of global users in mobile exceeds the desktop users since 2014. And it also depends on the time of day when your users are viewing your report. If you have a business report, there's a great chance that they will view it on a desktop. But if you have a business to consumer report, probably the chances are really high that they will view it on a tablet in the evening. So build your report, especially in Power BI, you can do it really easily, for mobile. The second step in our journey is ask for directions. Ask your viewers beforehand, what are your questions that you need to answer? What do you want to know? Listen and ask again, why? If they answer, just say, why? Why? Get to the core. It's really important to know beforehand and not just start designing what your interpretation will be of the end result. This is three different ways of visualization of the same topic. The left is ordered by size, by area, and the middle by the subject, and the right is a combination. They can all be great, just depends on the viewer. So ask your audience what do they want to know, and don't assume. For instance, your viewer can really like a line chart, maybe a column chart, or a box plot if they're more technical. Not everybody understands these graphs. And the CFO maybe really likes a table or a matrix. Lots of CFOs actually, if they have a report in front of them, there's a table, they will look at the table. And the CEO might never look at the table. So know your audience. If you ask somebody, design a dashboard for me, one would look at the left, design the dashboard on the left, and the one on the right is maybe more what you would think about the dashboard, because you're Power BI users, and this looks like Power BI report. And there are two ways of displaying your data. It can be exploratory or it can be explanatory. The exploratory is more appropriate for an analyst that does not know beforehand what he wants to know. He's just like looking for insights. And Power BI is really great for that. But Power BI, and even better with the latest release, is also great in explanatory. So if you know, then you know before, if you have like one or two gems in your data, like great insights, and you are maybe the analyst and prepares a report for your management, then it's explanatory, and you would like to tell a story. The example on the right, for instance, if you look at it, your attention gets drawn to the green line and not so much to the others. That's explanatory. So that was asking for directions. Next step in our journey is getting an appropriate type. Look at your data types. They can be quantitative, qualitative, and time series, and even have subtypes. And they decide for a great part the correct type of charts. So know your data types. And then if we talk about charts, there is like a great deal about different charts. And if you really pay attention, not every chart is appropriate for every situation. This image really helps. It's actually a quite old image, but it's still appropriate. And you start in the middle, and you see like, do I need to explain the relationship between stuff or distribution between stuff? Then you go in that path, and then eventually you end up with probably the right chart type. I will share my PowerPoint presentation, so just look it up, and this will be in there. But you can find this on the internet. It's really common use. It's really helpful. This is another way of selecting the right charts. So be prepared and take a moment for maybe each chart to decide what's the best best chart. And if you get really experienced with it, you will not need such a selection anymore. Then you'll do it faster and automatically. Power BI gives a lot of different chart types for compositions, for trends, distributions. And if you don't have the right chart out of the box, you can go to the custom visuals or even build your own visual. If you look at this data, it's a table with the region and some numbers, and it can be displayed in a lot of different ways. Each of them putting the focus on different areas. And a lot of them are not really appropriate, so pay attention. The left line chart, it's not really a good use to use a line chart in a not linear time series data. You can better use columns for that or bar charts for that. And then it's important to know if you're looking at a dashboard or a report. If you're users of Power BI, you already know they are layered on top of each other, and dashboard is automatically like a more high overview, and it needs a different layout. Typically, it's one snapshot of an underlying report, and it's more visual. It's not very often there are tables or matrices on a dashboard, but on a report it can be really useful. On a dashboard, a column layout is really helpful with a vertical split of areas and then more KPIs per area. But you can also do it in a vertical layout where month to date is like this actually is a matrix with vertical and horizontal layout. And this is another example. This one is used by Microsoft themselves, and it uses color and what's it called? Closure or continuity to group visuals together. And it's really it's easy on the eyes, but it displays a lot of data. If you look in detail to all these graphs, it's a lot of information. Within Power BI, you have a lot of ways to set up your dashboards and reports. From left to right, it's easy to more advanced, and you can layer stuff on top of each other. Example on the right is probably some management corporate reporting, and on the left it could be your own report that you share with one colleague. Next step in our journey, on our way up to the mountain, is beware of hazards. There can be a lot of bias in the author, who maybe already knows something about the data and navigates through the report, visualizes the report in a certain way, but it can be wrong. The data can push you in a direction, but if you don't know the data 100%, and probably you don't, it can also lead you in the wrong direction. And viewers can have a really strong bias as well. This visualization also has a strong bias in it's really strange visualization, because there is not such a great area in Greenland. And the one on the right kind of helps you discover that. But if you don't know that beforehand, then you actually think that Africa, you don't know the actual size relation between Africa and Russia, for instance. Another few examples of inappropriate chart use. The one on the left is also a linear chart with continual data. Of course, a 3D chart like that, it's not, you cannot do anything with them. And the chart on the right, it's not really bad, but you can use a lot of different visualizations to better explain your story. And the one in the middle is really funny. If you first look at it, you say, oh, well, the gun deaths, they're going a little bit up and then down. But the y-axis is inverted. So it's really strange visualization. So now actually the deaths are going up. The motor vehicles, if you first look at it, you think, oh, well, in the middle, there's a lot of more vehicle deaths. But actually there isn't. There's more vehicle deaths at the bottom because the cars are bigger there. I don't know if it's related to size of the state. It should be. But yeah, it can be a hazard for viewing this chart. Apple is really good in manipulating as well. If you look at the market share of Apple, it looks like it's bigger than the other market share, and that's the way they choose to sort it and put their chart in the middle. So beware of hazards. And then go the extra mile. If you have a report, you think it's okay, take another look at it, because it probably can be better. Let's take an example, where we make the data to ink ratio better. This has a lot of ink, but what it says, it's really, okay, you have to look at it a few times, and then you know what the viewer, what the author really wants you to see. So first, remove the background. It's useless. Then the chart, the background of the chart, the legend, the titles of the x-axis are also there, so we don't need a legend. Make the titles as short as possible. Remove labels that are redundant, and borders that are not necessary, and then give the bar that you want to draw attention to a different color, and the rest you can gray out. 3D is useless in this setup, at least. Bolding is useless, and then even the grid lines, they are not really useful, especially if you put the data labels inside the bars. And now, if you compare left and right, in the right, you only need like half a second, and you know that's the one that I need to look at, and what's good or bad with it. And on the left, yeah, it takes maybe it's endless. So less is more. Then some talk about colors. It's really important to have the right colors. If you are planning to put some sequential data on it, use different hues or tones, and choose the right categorical palettes if you want to have that. If you look at these examples, it's a really good use of colors. On the left, you have a nice diversion of colors, and in the middle, it is like below your mark, it's blue, and above is red. And this is global temperature going up, so red up. It's really good use of colors. And here, you know, if you even didn't have the legend, and somebody would ask which color would be beer, then you would probably know. And then pay attention to the colorblind people. 1 in 12 men are actually colorblind. And there's different degrees, but colorblind people, for them the right chart is what they see, and the red and green colors, they are almost the same. And red and green are actually the most important colors on charts. So pay attention to that. Know, again, your audience. If you work a lot with them, just ask, are you colorblind? And remember that. And there are websites that it can help you design your report in a way, choose the right colors. And then something about icons. Icons really help just not clutter your dashboard, enhance your dashboard. Don't overuse it, but they can be really effective, like in this example. And it's really easy to make those icons and put them on your dashboard or report. PowerPoint can be really helpful. They have like an icon library, and you can search online for another set of pictures. And not a lot of people use symbols in their data, but it's really easy, and it can be really helpful, especially in tables or matrices, where you would like to have inline visuals. The example on the upper right is a text where the Unicode symbol has been put before the actual value. And in DAX, you can make an easy switch between the one Unicode and the other. You can find a lot of examples on the internet now as well that use that. And this website is really really helpful for that. KPIs are really good because they tend to simplify and put the focus on the topic that you want to talk about. So they are really great, especially on dashboards, of course. If you have a data source that has KPIs, for example, an Excel data model or analysis services data model, it will automatically import the KPIs. And then remember, there's also a little trick. It's almost like the previous example with the symbol, but this uses a background bar chart or maybe a pie chart. That also works to display an icon in color. It just you can just overlay them and remove all the legends and titles and borders from the bar chart, and you only leave the color bar. If you go even further than that, you can make these kind of charts in Power BI with a little extra work. They don't come out of the box yet, and even especially these are called spark lines in general. Lots of times you put them for each row in your table, and you can kind of fake that by copying your graph and make them smaller and remove again all the borders and legends. And for these kind of charts, you also have to do a little bit DAX. The chart on the left, it has just a regular line, but also two extra measures where the symbol has been put in a circle and the line has been removed. And then using DAX, only the max value of that chart has kept this value, and the rest is blank or NOL. So only this dot remains. And then you do the same for the low value, the min value, and you have this chart. And if you do this once, you can copy it to your other reports really easily. And then another example of enhancing your data is using hyperlinks and images. Images are fairly easy. If you have the full link to the image, you can just put it in your data model, qualify that field as an image URL, and it will just display the image. It's really nice. And it works kind of the same way for the hyperlinks. Well, if you put all of this together, you can come up with a design like this. It uses colors meaningfully. It's easy for your eyes. It focuses your attention on topics that you, as an author, want your attention on. In this example, it's unprofitable sales. And then let's say you want to focus on taxes because it's red. Power BI, of course, has interactivity, so think about that on beforehand, and design your filters like that, the interactive filters. So the graph on the bottom, and I think also the line charts in this example, they are filtered for the selection of taxes now. And again, the red values are the values below 0, and it draws your attention. Next step. Tailor it for best grip. Go even further. Let's look at this example. It's a 3D artery model, 2011, and it's actually quite great in visualizing, I think, pressure in the artery. But it was kind of difficult for a lot of doctors to understand and look at it and find the right spots. So it has been redesigned, first in a more 3D model, but I think it's more flat. And the one on the right is even more, how do you call it? It's like a diagram. And actually this improvement in charting really helped diagnostic accuracy. So even the first graph, it looks impressive, but if you go further and further, think about it, choosing other visualizations, maybe build your own custom visuals, you can improve a lot. This example, it's quite impressive. It's more like an infographic, but it's busy, but on the other hand, quite easy. You don't think like, what's on here? The colors are used to distinguish areas, and it's great use of just gray color to have more information on the same page, but not get it, not getting it really crowded and thinking you want to go away from this chart. This chart makes me want to look more and more and finding insights. Something about maps. Even if you use a map, you have a lot of options you can choose. They're called retinal variables. Think about them to even more help you display your data in the best way. Tell your story better. This chart ranks them. So position along a common scale is the most important to tell your data in the best way. Area and volume density is less effective. People cannot really distinct the differences between A and B with density or volume in the way that position along a scale can. And even your type of data can make your decision change. So nominal data, you can the rank of the best option is different. Let's look at an example. How many 6s are in this block? Kind of takes you a while, right? There's 5. How many 9s are there now? Takes a lot less time, right? How many seconds did you think it would take? Did it take you? A, B, C, or D? Actually, it's C. It's 200 milliseconds, and that's because of pre-attentive processing. Your mind sees an image, and it before you can consciously process it, it already has processed it. If you close your eyes after 250 milliseconds, and then think about the image, you can say there's 5. So it's already processed. Use it to communicate in a better way. So it's actually the groundwork of all this data storytelling. Focus the right attention and use the pre-attentive processing in a good way. It's another example of great use of pre-attentive processing. If you look at this chart for just 1 second, your focus gets drawn to the blue areas and to the red dots. This is a chart from Stephen Few. If you haven't heard about it, go buy his books. It's really, really great to get in-depth information. We already looked at this example. Then some more theory. Gestalt. He has some principles about getting a focus about data in a really quick way. If you put these squares just one by one on a display, it's hard to process it. But if you use proximity or similarity or one of the other principles, you can enhance your story and get the viewer faster to your insight that you want to tell, your story that you want to tell. And you can even see that being applied to this example from Stephen Few. It uses proximity to gather areas in one area, and symmetry as well. It's easy on the eyes because of the alignment of charts. This is another example where the first graph is like all kinds of dots. But if you want to have some similarity and connection or continuity in it, the bottom graph is way better for that. So it may be obvious, but lots of times if you take a moment to look at the Gestalt principles, you can make your visualization better. And then lastly, it's all about teamwork. So if there's a guy or a woman next to you, ask them to look at your report because it's a fresh pair of eyes, and it's an agile process. So if you think you're finished with your dashboard, take a look at it the next day. Have another look at it, and know that you're never really finished with your dashboard. It grows. It's an endless loop of building, enhancing, seeing the insights, and then continuing. And then we should be at the top of our mountain and have a better story. So to recapitulate, map your domain. Know beforehand all the information that you can. And if you are having doubts, ask for directions. Get the appropriate types for charts, for data, and then beware of the hazards. Go the extra mile, even tailor it. Build your custom visual if you have the time for it. And then know it's all about teamwork. Thank you very much. If you have questions, now is the time.